What is this? Tron? By Arts of All Kinds. Loading. Welcome to the data log archive. View data log. Which program? User.exe. Loading data log. Data log loaded. Displaying. My head. Why is everything so bright? I could barely make anything out. It was so bright. It just kind of hurt to look. My eyes were ringing too, and my mouth was pasty dry. It was cold. Really cold. The light didn't have any sort of source I could make out. It was just kind of blinding. Even with my eyes closed, I could still barely take it. And yet, I was shivering from the lack of warmth. It felt so backwards. But then it wasn't so bright anymore. A shadow separated me from the blazing light. I squinted and realized I was looking up at something that resembled a head. I thought it was tough to make out, but it had a short, bobbed hair and large ears sticking out of the top, similar to a fox or a cat. The face was much too rounded to be a cat, though.
Oh my,
it said. It had a very feminine voice, jubilant but still caring. I couldn't help but think back to some of the more stereotypical animes I'd seen on YouTube, where there always was some girl who was unrealistically naive, but still tried to do her best at whatever she did.
Are you? You can't be,
the voice continued. Whoever she was, I'm assuming it was a she based on her voice, she was confused by something. And since she was standing over me, I had to guess I was the problem. I managed, past my unnaturally dry lips. Why was I so thirsty, and achy, and sensitive to light? And where was I?
Oh, are you hurt? Do you need anything, sir?
Sir? Was she talking to me? Sir is not something I'd ever been called before, but between the odd situation and unpleasant sensations I was experiencing, that line of thought didn't continue for long. Where am I? I asked, squinting and still trying to make something out of the silhouette. I don't know how, but she was familiar.
On the home screen. You can go anywhere else from here. Is there anywhere you would like to go?
She added, cheerful but still clearly worried. She had a flight attendant-like attitude, happy and reassuring, yet still also conveying whatever other emotions she was trying to get across. In this case, care and worry. I had no idea what she meant by what she just said. Is there someplace less bright? I tried. I just kind of wanted to see at this point.
Oh, of course. 1 second, please,
she said. An odd response, but I guess it made sense, kinda. Not that much else she'd said had. The shadow disappeared from above me, and I could feel my body getting pulled up and onto something. This something was furry, in a fluffy kind of way, and I was placed on top of it lengthwise, 2 limbs hanging off of each side, and then my head laid sideways on something. I just couldn't see what. But whatever this was, it was comfortable and warm. I could feel an upward push and a gain of altitude, although the light still prevented me from deciphering how high or even what was carrying me. I think I heard flapping as well, but I was too, in sensory shock to think much of it. Not much time passed until something amazing happened. The light disappeared quite suddenly. There wasn't much of a transition, but I did feel a slow descending feeling. I blinked my eyes open to an odd sight. There were thin blue veins in the strange, perfect straight lines. Each one was pulsating down at its own pace, some faster than the others. The wall itself was a dark shade of blue, and it didn't stand out much compared to the amazing lights of shining, lighter blue. I felt a thump as whatever I touched the ground. I was carefully moved off of some kind of raised platform and softly shrugged onto what I could make out was a dark and blue and metallic floor. The heat leaving my chest made me shiver again.
Sir, are you okay?
Asked the voice again. I looked up because I could now and saw that the voice had belonged to, a pony. Not the realistic petting zoo pony, but a cartoon pony. The kind you'd see if you watched My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. This one, however, was never introduced in the show itself. It was still a pony I knew very well though, because I clicked on her at least 20 times daily. It was the chrome pony. Her fur was pure white and radiant. Her mane was short, bobbed, and spotting a light blue color that matched by her medium-length tail. She wore the chrome icon hairpin and a chrome cutie mark. Her wings, as she was a Pegasus, consisted of 3 large, thick feathers that came together in a white feathered joint. On each wing, the feather closest to her head was red, the one closest to her tail was green, and the one in the middle was yellow. Her eyes were looking into mine, and they were hard to miss, actually, as each was an icy blue, more complex than her mane's blue, but still in a similar shade. She noticed my shivering and, embarrassingly enough for me, hurriedly jumped up behind me and laid next to my sideways form. Her front hooves curled around my neck, and I could feel myself blush a bit. But she was warm, and I guess I can see her logic behind her action. I don't think she knew you can't just snuggle with any pony. I reached up and tried to move her hoof away and explain I was fine, but as my limb entered my side, I realized something was wrong. Where my hand should have been, there was a hoof. I looked down, trying to ignore the other pony hugging me, and I saw that it wasn't human, like I should have been. I too was a pony. But too much information to take in. Luckily for me, it all fell onto one question. What's going on here? It was kinda hard to be mad when you're lying on the floor with someone, or I guess some pony, especially when she's trying to keep me warm. But I did my best, although my headache didn't make it anything better.
I can answer that question, said the pony behind me. We're inside an Apple iOS called installed onto the hardware Apple iPod 4G. And you're not a program, are you?
Okay then, this is a dream. Whoa. Slow down, I said, shaking myself from her embrace and trying to get on my feet, hooves. Where? The chrome pony stood up.
We're inside an Apple operating system installed onto the hardware.
I got that part, I grunted. My hooves decided not to work right, and I fell flat on my face with my back legs bucked, but still supporting my other end. Overall, I looked very silly. But I'm inside the software?
You are,
the chrome pony giggled as she watched me trying to get my footing, or maybe hoofing.
My search engine can't find any similar story with the keywords inside software, besides a numerous amount of sources referencing Tron. May I ask what you last remember? Maybe that can give you an idea as to how this happened.
I was standing now, wobbly but upright. I was using the Chrome app to view SoundCloud, and I had my headphones in. It had been a long day and I was in my pajamas. It was late and there was a storm outside. My iPod was plugged into the wall. I think.
The
chrome pony thought, scratching her roundish chin. After a few moments her face lit up, and she locked on and looked at me.
Using this data and suspending certain things that would seem impossible, she began, I think you fell asleep. Perhaps lightning struck your home or a nearby power cable and sent a shock through the system, blazing through your iPod and shocking your headphones. That possibly could have created a consciousness bridge from your brain to the device. You might be connected right now using that very method.
I stated at this pony, completely bewildered. Yeah, definitely a dream.
I'm sorry, but that's the only explanation I came up with.
She sighed, but the truth of the matter is that you're here now.
Hows can be computed later.
She walked in a circle around me. I felt really uncomfortable being examined like that.
Goodness, you really are a user. I've had a file of functionalities, but even using that I can see your programming is just an .exe file. Normally, this OS couldn't run .exes, but that would be if you were actually a program, wouldn't it?
She stopped in front of me and beamed.
Hello, user. My name is Chrome, but some programs in here call me Romy for short. I think it sounds cuter, don't you?
Yeah, I said. She giggled.
Welcome to our device. I can't wait to show you around. Oh, do you want to be shown around? You do want to be shown around, right?
Give me a second. I asked of her. I've got a few questions first. Sure, fire away, she grinned back. She looked so happy to help me out, and not in the creepy happy way either. She honestly wanted to make my day easier, and I guess it was in her programming, but all the same, it was reassuring. Why are you a pony? And why am I a pony too? I asked. All programs here look or resemble the icon that's attached to them, she explained. It's the only graphical guideline we have for our coding. The programs here resemble ponies because you modified our icons to a pony-like representation of the original logos. Eventually, the rest of the programs took on pony-like forms too, even without changing their icons. Every program here, including you, is going to look and move like a pony. You've customized us this way. It was true. I had figured out a way to change icons on an iPod. I could have never guessed it changed the program's body itself, or maybe it was dream logic. I don't know. Romy sat down and looked to her right before smiling at me again. Not to interrupt, but can I ask a question too? She actually looked kind of adorable smiling up at me like that. I tried to imitate her sitting to a certain degree of success. Sure, go ahead. I know a lot about you. I was designed to get you, or to recommend for you, and to do everything as suited for you as I can. So I understand your personality very well, but I honestly can't say I know about you as a person, your history, your stories. Do you mind telling me about what it's like in the user's world? What do you think and feel about it? Everything? I asked. That was kind of a broad topic. Everything I do and have done and plan to do. Anything at all, please. She was so, I don't have a word for it, passionate. She was really passionate about me, or rather, the tales I could tell her. She continued. I've seen pictures and read stories about it, but I've never been, and I want to know what it's like. I want to see what you've seen through your eyes. Was she blushing? Was it even possible? Maybe more dream logic. I took in my surroundings. It was still cold, dark and blue, and rather soundless. The lines of what I guessed were data pulsed and pushed far above us, where a white light seemed to glow. Well, it's not cold, I began. There's something like that light right above us called the sun that gives us heat and light to the world. She closed her eyes and smiled lazily. It was actually really cute, and I found myself realizing, which was weird, because she was apparently my web browser. There's a ton of colors and lots of other people too. For the most part, they have their own computers. I didn't really know what more to describe, if she had already seen it all. Wind. Could you describe wind for me? She asked. Wind. It's kind of... It cools you off. It can push and pull, but it's not really like it's there. It's gentle. And if there's trees around, you can hear it coming. I racked my brains over trying to think of other words. And what's water like? She asked eagerly. I had questions too, and I really wanted to ask them, but I couldn't seem to say no to her. Smooth, wet, transparent, and refreshing. It's kind of like, well, it feels like a loose solid, not sturdy, but not there. Do you like swimming? What's it like? She pleaded. Once again, her eagerness couldn't be ignored by me, and I went on to explain a numerous amount of things. My own questions kept piling up, but I held them back to answer hers to the best of my ability. Discreetly, I was testing if this was a dream. I had taken a mini lesson on dreams from my language arts teacher as an attachment to a story we had to read. So, I knew that certain things about dreams were off compared to reality. All of my sentences seemed to work, so that wasn't quite reassuring. The conversation stayed completely on topic, even when I thought random things in my head. The room never changed at all, even though it was very detailed. Doubt began to creep in. Could this not be a dream? Oh, that's so cool. I've noticed a change in IP periodically, but I never knew you went on vacation. She was giggling the kind of way friends do when they talk. Even though nothing was very funny, I was too. Yeah, it's really neat. A great way to recharge your batteries, I beamed back. Honestly, I like this pony, and it made sense as I was beginning to come to terms with this, my own web browser. But she got all my inside jokes and knew exactly what I was talking about when I said something, and laughed at all the perfect times. I began to think about stuff as this whole Tronish thing being legit became more and more of a fact in my mind. I used Chrome more every day than I did basically anything else. She was already like my best friend, even if we'd never met before. I didn't know you yodeled. We both finished the joke at the same time and burst out laughing, neither of us keeping our balance and falling onto the floor in fits. It was only when our giggles subsided that I realized her head was on my chest, looking up at me. We both blushed, and I looked back up to the light above us. She didn't move though. I looked down to see her smiling with her eyes closed. She sighed, and my pony face blew up with red. I probably hadn't blushed so hard in my entire life before. Then again, I'd never connected to anyone else before. Not like this. Ooh! She shut up and to an archway leaning out of the room we were in. You wanted a tour user? Do you want a tour user? She spread her wings out, priming them for takeoff. Oh yeah, sure! I got out. I stood up too and trotted my way over to Romy. I'll admit, being a pony is cool. Once you get comfortable with it, it's actually a lot more stable, no pun intended, than just two legs. Now more comfortable with the way it felt to be quadrupedal, I could sense the better balance. It was weird not to have fingers and such, but compared to everything else that was happening, I can't say it was the weirdest feeling I'd had that day. I trotted through the archway as she took off behind me. Every step seemed to echo a clip-clop sound. The air was still cold and my head still kind of hurt, but now that my eyes were working, I was completely stunned. An expansive city of tall and oddly shaped skyscrapers covered the whole of the area I could see. Certain ones were tall enough to reach the layer of dark blue cloud stuff that covered all of it. When I looked at every blue structure in awe from the high balcony I was standing on, it seemed like the tower it was attached to was the biggest one, and it was much thicker at the point where it reached the clouds than the others. Our staircase wound around the tower, and it trotted down. Despite the height, it barely took any time at all to get down to street level. My eyes were wide with shock. Pegasi, unicorns, and earth ponies, most of which were white, black, and blue, ran about the street, seemingly all of which were carrying box-shaped saddlebags that had crosses of blue data lines. Realization struck that these were programs carrying data from one place to the next, and the mail mares and mail codes of the digital city. Who knows what kind of code these packages held? Romy landed next to me and smiled. The tallest tower you saw were the programs that could contact you when you weren't using them, she explained. The ones you allowed notifications for. Wow, I thought. That's crazy. It's all about perspective. Romy grinned, and then she trotted off down the street with me in tow. What do you want to see first? She asked, turning her head back to look at me. I don't know, I laughed sheepishly. Then we'll do it by alphabet. The crown pony exclaimed excitedly before grabbing a hoof and tugging me down the road faster than we had been before. And so we did. She took me to all of the app's headquarters minus her own, and showed me how they worked differently, which had the most programs, etc. We saw the Facebook's app's Earth Ponies, the Safari app's Unicorns, and the email's app's Pegasi. Each app had its own head pony, and these ponies recognized me immediately, unlike the low-grade programs. They were all very nice and respectful, and if I had given them a pony icon, they looked just like the little picture they did. If not like Safari Pony, then they'd still look very much like a pony version of their app should look like. Eventually, we had seen every major app's building, from the App Store to Voxer, all but one. There was so much more left to explore, I could tell, but somehow I knew Romy was far too excited to hold off any longer. We are going to the Chrome app building. As we entered through the sliding glass doors, Romy smiled with an air of authority. This was her domain, I could tell, and she was proud of it. The main room was large, with rounded balconies going around the second, third, and so on floors. Looking up through the building made me feel dizzy, so instead I looked at the decor. It was all very modern, and most of it was white with blue light lines. It took me a second, but I realized that the lines were acted as illumination and decoration all at once. Romy trotted up to the front desk to a smiling receptionist pony who had light blue and fur and a white mane. All of the smaller programs seemed to match the reversed color schemes of that of their boss, and they all shared the same cutie mark. "Please call an elevator," Romy grinned. The receptionist pony nodded and hit a switch. To our right, a modern-looking glass wall elevator descended to the first floor. Its doors opened, and Romy let me in. Her hoof tapped a button on the right side of the elevator, and after the door shut, we began to rise through the building. It was amazing. Every app had an unbelievable amount of workers, but Romy had at least an army of programs on each level, and the floors just kept coming. Most of them weren't that busy though, and were either talking with other programs, taking a nap, or messing around with glass panels floating next to them. Romy could see my confusion. Each floor works on the tab of your browser," she said. "We all spread out the work, but we have 101 floors. Most of the time not every program is working." "Why 101? I asked. "The first floor, 99 floors for tabs, and the one for my office," she smiled. The elevator continued upwards. They seemed horribly overstaffed, but by the looks of it, I wouldn't have a problem when it came to my tab number. The 101st floor came quickly, and we stepped into Romy's office. It was more of a rec room than an office, although I did see a few shelves stacked with files and folders. There was a comfy-looking couch, a kitchenette, a big TV, and a coffee table. The room was a mixture of blue, yellow, red, and green, and white, and the colors popping up in very creative yet eye-catching ways. Romy seemed to blend in perfectly. The white Pegasus pulled me across the springy carpet of the room and sat me down on the fluffy couch, quickly taking a seat next to me. We sat in the traditional pony way, flanks on the ground and front hoofs keeping our heads and chest up high, which was odd to do on a couch, but surprisingly not uncomfortable. "What do you think, user? Is this place cool?" "This place is beyond cool," I smiled. "Your building, and the other app's buildings, and the city itself, and the fact that it's all inside my iPod. It's crazy." "We do it all for you, you know," she said, and I honestly never felt so honored. A modest bluish crept its way onto my face. Blush crept on my face. "The only bad thing is how cold it always seems to be," I shrugged. Romy smiled. "Well, that's an easy fix." My eyes went wide in shock as I turned my head, but she had already started. Her whole upper body leaned in, and her front hoof wrapped around my torso. Her head was laying against the arm side of my shoulder, and I could now see she had kicked her back hoofs so they rested on top, one on top of the other, on the side farthest from me. She was hugging and leaning on me, efficiently covering me with a lot of her body. I looked away to hide my quickly reddening cheeks. I won't lie, it was warm, and I had been cold. Situations like this never had presented themselves to me before. I wanted to tell her no, tell her I was fine, but all I did was sit there and blush. I could feel her breathing on my fur, which I'll admit felt weird considering I'd never had fur before, but by no means bad. And every few seconds I'd noticed she'd leant even closer onto my side. This was too much. She was pretty, and she was nice. She honestly liked me, and she was hugging me in a not just a friend kind of way. I knew I couldn't let myself look at her. I'd fall for her if I hadn't already. But then she happily sighed, and I couldn't help it. I turned my head to face her, not too quickly but not too slowly either. She noticed my movement and glanced up at me. Her fur was somewhat more beautiful white and her mane was slightly less messy. Her wings were outstretched, showing off her feathers, and her eyes. They were looking up at me, and now that they had me, I couldn't turn away. Each was a pool of pure blue, a beautiful and deep blue that I couldn't get enough of. Her expression was one of complete care and trust, and I noticed she was blushing too. She grinned ever so slightly, and I was gone. Slowly, carefully, I returned the hug, sliding my hoofs under her and moving my back legs behind me. My head naturally rolled over to hers, and we both found our chins resting on each other's shoulders. She hugged me even tighter, and I hugged her back. I was made for you, to be everything you need. You made me into who I am, she said, her voice very cautious. She pulled her head back, and so did I. So now we could see each other's faces. She was curious and a bit confused, and blushing. A question escaped her lips. Is that why I'm so attracted to you? We were both getting closer and closer. I don't know what I was doing, but it felt right. Even if it made no sense. But at that moment, I didn't wonder what I was doing, or why I was doing it. I just did it. I kissed her. The alarm was always too loud. I guess that was the point, but I don't think it was meant to wake up your neighbors too. I hit the button that shut off the infernal noise, and stretched my arms up above me, cracking my knuckles. Realizing I felt a tug from my ears, I reached up and pulled off my earbuds. They gave me a bit of a shock as I took them off, but I didn't think much of it. Until I remembered why. Eyes wide, the whole adventure came rushing back to me. Every part of it, from the bright light to being a pony, to the city, to Romy's. Oh my god, Romy. I grabbed my iPod. How would I do this? Thinking off the top of my head, I opened my Chrome app and tapped the address bar. I blushed a bit at the memory. What do I say? I tapped the letters until my message was clearly spelled out. I remember. Daringly, I hit go. I held my breath as the web page loaded, but I sighed in disappointment when the generic Google search screen popped up. I checked the web pages, but there wasn't anything in there either. Disappointed, I hit the home button. Maybe it had been a dream. But it was so real. And you can't just fall in love with a girl from a dream. Not like this. I was about to get out of bed when I saw something was off. There was a new app, right there on the screen. I'd never seen it before, and there was no way I'd forget the new app download. I got a closer look at the app. It was a black icon, and on it was my pony Sona? Pony me was sitting, facing real me and smiling. Curious, I checked the app name. User.exe. My heart exploded when I read the title. It hadn't been a dream. It was really real. Romy and the city. And, well, honestly, I couldn't stop but think about Romy. She was really there. And she really... It was so weird. I wanted to find her again. I wanted to hold her again. She was a program, but I still liked her. A lot. And as I held my iPod in my hand, I didn't feel like it was weird. I felt warm, and that was reassuring. I clicked on the app. A message popped up saying that the user must be asleep with the earbuds in. I was half tempted to just now completely blow off work and get back to where I was. If it even worked. But I made myself put it off until tonight. I would see her that night. And I don't know. We could do whatever. Have a pizza, watch a movie, do whatever programs do. I don't think I was ever more excited for anything else in my life. The end.